Okay, it has been a while, but I'm back doing reviews. Kind of got discouraged and just didn't want to do them for a while. But today I am doing a review of Shazam because I actually got to see the early screenings that they had for Shazam. They had them for, I believe it was on Saturday night, this past Saturday night, and they had about 3 showings per theater. And I'm glad because I got a chance to actually go see it. And it was, all in all, just right off the bat, it was a good movie. I thought they did a good job. I thought what DC Comics and Warner Brothers are trying to do with the new regime here is a good step forward. And I believe this is kind of like Aquaman was kind of more of a foundation. Yes, we're not forgetting about Wonder Woman, but this is stuff that happened after Wonder Woman. But Aquaman was a good foundation upon the different type of a tone that they were going for, but still keeping that past gritty DC comic book tone that they were trying to establish in the movies with like Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. But this is just, it was right off the bat, it was a family-friendly film. They just did it correctly, and I was really happy, and I hope that it does well this weekend not this weekend, the next following weekend when it comes out, because this is like a 2-week preview. And supposedly it did well. It did about $7 million, which I know you might think it's a small amount of numbers, but that's basically what Aquaman had done when they did the pre-screenings and everything like that, the advanced screenings for Aquaman. The only difference is that Aquaman, it was only 2 showings per theater. This one was 3. But I think that the projection levels for this movie that they have right now are pretty low, and I think that it might exceed that, and I think that it will have legs, and weekend to weekend it will do well, because it has everything in it. And certain things that actually surprised me about Shazam, because I know a lot about Shazam because I'm a DC comic book boy, so I know about him a lot. And I was surprised what they did with this, and I'm not the biggest fan of Jeff Johns. I'll be completely honest. His writing and everything like that in the comics, I think that he's a great writer and everything like that. He has great ideas, but sometimes I just believe that he takes things into a completely different realm. And the same thing with Shazam. But I did like what he did in the comic books with Shazam. And in the movie, like I said, it has that family fun, but it has that edge to it that DC Comic Books is still trying to maintain. This is not really a spoiler. You can see this on IMDb and everything like that. And if you could go through the cast of Shazam, you could see it on there. But I was very happy to see that the father of Dr. Sivana was Lex Luthor from Smallville. Love him to death. I loved him on Smallville. I remember even when I was a kid, when I was watching Smallville, I remembered him in so many movies and so many TV shows prior to Smallville. And when he was cast as Lionel Luthor, I was just really happy. I think he's a great actor. He does a good job. He brings that, I hate saying gravitas, but he does bring that gravitas to it a little bit. And he did a good job of this. And I was a really happy surprise to see him in this movie because I did not read that in the cast. As far as Dr. Sivana himself, the villain of the movie, I thought the motivations were pretty sound, and you get to see that right off the bat. There may be some people who think that Dr. Sivana, well, why was he like this? Why was his motivations like this? But he had a motivation, and they stuck to it. And I think they did a very good job of establishing him and the reason why he is the villain of this movie. Shazam is Billy Batson. I actually liked him better in the movie than I liked the Jeff Johns 52 version in the comic book when he rewrote the story of Shazam, because I thought that, I understand, to be more modern, they made Billy Batson have more of a harder edge to him, and he was an asshole. That was basically what Billy Batson was. And he was a bratty kid and everything like that. He just didn't want to listen to anybody, whatever. But in this version, he skimmed that line. He wasn't as hard as he was in the comic books. And actually, I think he was more likable than he was in the comic books, which that really surprised me. I was surprised that they went that route and they didn't decide to just do the 52 version, because a lot of the DC movies lately, they've been taking a little bit more from Jeff Johns than I thought that they would. But this time they didn't. I thought they did a good job. He was really likable, and the kid who played him, forgive me, I can't remember his name right now. I'll put it up on the screen. He did a very good job of that, and I believed him in everything, and actually his motivations throughout the movie. And not to give away anything like that, but his whole family situation, his past and everything like that, I believed all of that. And I was surprised they delved that much into it. And the whole movie was more of like a family thing. And I really appreciated how they did that. They stuck to the story. And it had a nice arc of how it ended and everything too. Obviously, in the comic book, Dr. Savannah has been a Shazam enemy for a while. Basically, Shazam's Lex Luthor. In this story, it was a little bit different, and he kind of took the place of, if you know the character Black Adam, you probably already do, from the comic book, who supposedly Dwayne Johnson is still going to play. He basically took that place of him, and they still kept the Dr. Savannah part. It wasn't like they like erased Dr. Savannah and they make him Black Adam. They just they kind of replaced his placement in the story of the 52 version of Dr. Savannah. I meant 52 version. They replaced the version of Black Adam in the 52 version with Dr. Savannah, but they still kept it Dr. Savannah. And like I said, I thought the motivations were fine for this. And Mark Strong, who plays Dr. Savannah, he did a really good job. He was believable. He was menacing, despite the fact that he was physically smaller than Shazam. but he was menacing, and you got the reason why he wanted to do this and the reason why he was upset. I was very surprised because I had heard that there were some dark elements of this, but straight up horror elements, which you're going to find out. And I won't say what they were, but the director of this movie, I believe he did Lights Out, which was a horror movie. And I'm a big horror movie person, but the past 10 years I haven't been like too much into most of the horror movies that have been out because they haven't scared me at all. Lights Out, which I believe was originally online. It was a small little fan film type thing. Not a fan film, but a small little film that somebody made. And that basically catapulted him because somebody saw it. I believe James Wan saw it, and he was like, oh my God, this is so good, and made it into a movie called Lights Out. And you could find a short film online. And I watched it, I remember it actually did kind of scare me. I was like, ooh, that's a creepy idea. And they made it to a whole movie afterwards. The director from that made this movie. And just like James Wan did an incredible job of Aquaman, especially with the visuals and everything like that. And he made that tone. And you think, oh my God, he's a horror movie director. How can he make such a light tone? But he did it. And he did it with that little bit of horror edge in there. And the same thing with Shazam. And I didn't know how they were going to do in this movie. Because I'm like, what the hell about Shazam is horror that I can think of other than a couple things? And basically those couple things are in the movie. And like, I like that. That was, I don't know how kids are going to react to that, but that was kind of a scary moment. Off the bat, the special effects were, I put them as medium, but that wasn't the whole point of the film. And I didn't know how they were going to do it with such a bright character, because this is Shazam, like, full-on red suit. Like, this is more red than Barry Allen was in Justice League. And that was really muted because it was still the Zack Snyder age. But, yeah, the flying scenes were good. They actually made that costume work, even though you know that there's padding in there. And the reason why I say that, everybody's like, oh yeah, there's padding because Zach Levi, he did a good job of bulking himself up, but there's only so much you could do without doing something like that. And the thing with the padding is that it actually worked. It moved with him. And I thought they did a good job of that. The only complaint I have about the padding and everything like that for the Shazam costume and other things that I'll mention in a spoiler review is that when you make a shoulder muscle right here, it connects into your trapezius. And the thing is that he doesn't really have one. That's what makes it sometimes look a little bit hokey. Because like there's no way that you could have a shoulder that big without having your trapezius being not equal to it, but being proportionate so that it slides into that. It was basically flat and then you have a shoulder. That's impossible. And that was the only thing that threw me off a little bit. But I'm like, but it made him look more cartoony, and it set the and that actually falls into the tone really well, because like you believe him to be like this exaggerated God man, which he is. He is a person. He's a kid who turns into a grown up who has the power of the gods, quite literally. Cast, I just have to say, I wasn't disappointed. Zachary Levi did a really good job. He conveyed this kid being in a grown-up body, but not just being like a kid. He did like a Tom Hanks version, which I'm not saying that Zachary Levi is as good as Tom Hanks, but kind of the big thing. And there's a nod to the big movie in there. And we all knew that it was probably going to happen. They had to do like some self-awareness of that, because a lot of people compared this to the movie Big from the 80s. If you haven't watched that movie with Tom Hanks, watch that. As a kid, that was one of my favorite movies. And they did a good job of blending the superhero part of that and making it kind of like that story. But they didn't copy it in any type of way. But it was just the fact, because there were so many movies in the 80s that had kids changing to grown-ups and stuff like that. But Big was the biggest one. And it was the one that actually won awards. It actually got so much acclaim and everything like that. So them taking a nod to that was was the right thing to do, and they didn't exaggerate it too much. And Zachary Levi did a good job, and like I said, the kid who played Billy Batson did a really good job too. They almost blended. They didn't seem exactly like the same person, but they shouldn't, because right when he changes into Shazam, there should be that difference, because you're in a grown-up body now. You're going to think differently. You're going to feel differently, because you've never had that before, and you're in a grown-up body that can lift like a house or lift like a skyscraper. So that's it. You have to take that in consideration when Zachary Levi plays the role. He has to take that, the kid version, Billy Batson, and he has to think, what would the kid feel like when he smacks, when he's right, and when he becomes Shazam? And he did that as a good job. Still keeping that personality elements there, though. Action was good and a bit brutal at certain points. I was surprised that they went there. But like I said, the horror movie director thing made me lean into it. After I saw the more horror element of this movie, I was like, okay, so when they get to the action scenes, it's going to kind of be dirty. And it was. And it was funny and everything like that. You saw that Batman clip and everything when he's in the toy store and he throws the Batman doll at him, and it's Kevin Conroy's voice from Batman the Animated Series. That was cute. But I just kind of dismissed it because I already saw it so many times in the previews. But all in all, the action sequences were good. And just the feats. Shazam feats, like him lifting large objects, learning his powers, which was still funny. Even though you saw it in the commercials and the trailers, when you actually see the whole thing of everything that they do, like it was really funny. I was like, oh my God, I'm like, this is exactly what I would have done if I was a kid and I suddenly had superpowers. Last but not least, because now even DC has end credit sequences, which I think are a good thing. Marvel set the precedence for that. And I believe Marvel, I mean, they're not the first people who did like end credit sequences, but whenever you're at a Marvel movie now, you always expect to see an end credit sequence. There are two in this movie, so sit down and wait. I'm going to go against the grain here and say that for the second end credit sequence, which is at the very end of all the credits, I don't believe that one is as important as the first one. The first one, maybe because if you watch any of my previous videos, you know who my I can't say it without spoiling it, but I may have a little bit of a bias toward that first credit sequence. Let's put it that way. But I do believe, as important level, it was good. And there is a little animation thing that goes along with it, and that's not spoiling too much because you don't know what the end animation is going to be. Watch the animation and pay attention to it. It was cute, and but the end credit sequence it folded right into the movie. It was part of the arc of the movie, and it was good. It was good. That's all I'm going to say. So see that first end credit sequence. I don't think you need to wait until the last one, but if you do, you won't be too disappointed. It'll just be like, oh, okay, that's what it is. And so that's basically my review of Shazam. If I were to give it like a rating, I don't even like to do ratings anymore and everything like that. Let's say it's like 1 out of 10. It would be like 8.5. 10 being the best. But yeah, it's definitely a thumbs up movie. I'm glad that DC did this, and I think that they did the right job. Even though I am a Man of Steel fan. I am actually Batman v Superman fan. I do miss the darker tone and the grittiness, but I'm a kid of the 90s, and that's what we had back then. And I realize that. And I know now it's more of a lighter tone, and I know the things that they need to do in order to make these things work for a mass audience. So I understand that. And I always take that into consideration whenever I see any movie, especially a big tentpole movie like this. So as far as that's concerned, I had no problem with that part. And I can't wait to see what I think it's like at a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, but that's just from these advanced screenings. And also before that, it was like 98%. It was a ridiculous number. It's really high for a DC comic book movie, and I'm really happy that it's getting there because Aquaman, dipped and dipped and dipped, but Aquaman made $1 billion freaking dollars. I don't think that this movie will make that much, but who knows? I didn't think Aquaman was going to make that much. And I don't think anybody thought that Aquaman was going to make that much money. I thought it was going to be good, but not that much. I hope this does really well, and I can't wait for the future of the DC comic book universe on the movies. So, other than that, I am Michael S Garner, writer, drawer, artist of my own original online comic book, which you can see here, called Visions of the New on visionsofthenew.com, blah, blah, blah. Haven't done anything in a while for it. Still keep chugging along and working. I've done so many issues on the back burner. I'll be releasing them hopefully as soon as I can, but not rushing it. But if you want to see the past ones, they're there. Until next time, hope you go to see this movie. Shazam!